Welcome to Nairobi Garage. We are Africa's coolest, biggest, most amazing co-working space and business hub. So for us, we believe we don't just sell you office space, we give you more than that. And this is one of the ways in which we provide value to our members. And it's such a pleasure to have each one of you here today, and I really hope that you'll have a good time. We have such an amazing speaker who's going to share his journey with us so far.
So I'll start with my journey, but I'll talk about certain inflection points in my journey and the lessons I learned around techpreneurship, because that's what I'm here to talk about today.
So Marketforce was born to digitize how sales people sell. Like essentially it's about finding problems that are worth solving and are scalable, and then just trying to solve them. One of the things I see people doing a lot, which is a mistake, is starting with a solution. So guys come and tell me, yo, I want to build an app for XYZ. Have you talked to any customer? Have you talked to anyone? It's like, no. You should start building a solution because you face a problem or somebody comes to you and has faced the problem. Otherwise, just thinking tech is really cool, I build this app and I become the next big thing, so I want to build a Facebook just because somebody else has built a Facebook and it works, is not the reason to start a business. So that's how we got the ideas, and then over time, fundraising is about, okay, I've tested this idea with 1 customer, 10 customers, 100 customers. It means it's scalable, so you raise funds to grow the idea even further. So that's been how we've done it.
So the first inflection point in my journey was in Form 2. So I went home one time for midterm, and I had an elder cousin who introduced me to social networking. So they introduced me to Facebook. They were like, this thing is really cool, you need to set up an account. They walked me through that process. And I always wanted to be different things. I wanted to be a footballer early on. Then I wanted to be an architect because I liked drawing, I liked buildings. But in Form 2, I decided I was going to study software engineering or computer science after my interaction with Facebook. So that was a big inflection point because I think I found my purpose, and I never looked back. So the reason I like to talk about purpose is because this journey of entrepreneurship is really hard. So if you don't have grounding, why are you doing what you're doing, then it's very hard, very easy to give up. But that purpose to build a technology business in Africa for Africans with inspiration from global platforms that had done super well and created such impact at scale, I felt like there was an opportunity to do that in the continent. The second inflection point was I got into campus, so I ended up in a computer science class. I went to the University of Nairobi, and that's where I met my co-founder. There's a point brought about around how do you find co-founders. I hear this a lot. So that was an inflection point again because I've started 3 or 4 businesses today. 3 or 4 because one failed really quickly, so I don't know whether I count it. But all these businesses have been with the same co-founder. And the reason I think that's an inflection point is because I found my tribe. Mesongo was in the same class as me, but if you guys are familiar with the Kenyan system, you have parallel and then you have regular. So we were totally different backgrounds. Like, he was a reg student, he was top of his class when he joined, while I was, I'd say, an average student. This guy is super smart, then he's come from the village. So he comes from a marginalized tribe, but he ended up in the same class as I did. And somehow we became friends. So I think that's one of the interesting traits around finding co-founders. You tend to look for people who are like you, and be friends with people who are like you. And in most cases, you're not able to complement each other. And in this case, like this is in building a business. The third inflection point was when we founded our first serious business out of campus. So we graduated in 2015, and my fourth year project was digitizing the tendering process. So for those of you who've tried hustle through tendering, you think this is your way to your first million, etc. It is normally for a lot of people in entrepreneurship. We had done a number of gigs in that space, or through tendering, like graphic design, web design for parastatals, so we used to hustle like that when in campus. Yeah, so my last inflection point is around process. Somebody asked how it feels to raise funds and all that stuff. So realizing that every stage of your business requires a new you. So that's been an interesting realization, because you're always thinking, if I raise 1 million shillings, if I raise 10 million shillings, I'll be sorted, things will be good. But you really have to reinvent yourself at every stage of your journey, end of your life, to be successful.
So every day you wake up should be like your runway is shorter and shorter. So you need to move really fast and be ready to reinvent yourself. Yeah, I think those are the 4 things I can think about that I wanted to share, and happy to take on questions.
Yes, good evening. My name is Thelma. I had 2 questions. One is, how would you advise someone to manage co-founder or founder syndrome? And then the second question is, how or when do you know it's time to sell your company because it's bigger than yourself or your idea?
Yeah, I normally call that falling in love with your idea or product. I think you should fall in love with the problem, and that's how to manage it. Always remember there's 9 ways to skin a cat or rat. So as you're building and as you get the ideas, you just need to be open, you need to be aware that the way you think about the solution, and I guess this is falling in love with an idea, in most cases falling in love with a solution, because you think about this thing and you think about this is how it's meant to be solved, and there could be other ways that are actually right, and those other ways are by talking to your customer. And we value a lot of our merchant insight, which means we lead by, we want to serve you. What is your problem? Like, we know delivering goods is what you need. We're not giving you loans what you need. When you go to the customer and they tell you, no, me actually I don't need loans, I don't need loans in my life. Right? And you should sell if you have captured majority of the market opportunity. Like, there's no room for growth. You say that I sell this thing for 1 million, I get crushed by somebody who's likely to be the winner in the space, or I can grow this thing to 1.5 million. So it makes sense to sell because you've already captured the opportunity.
The question is, since you have branched into other countries, especially in Africa, where would you say Kenya ranges in the tech space, and what's the gap?
Digital adoption in Kenya is very, very, very high. I think Kenyans are equally tech curious in Marketforce. It's a really good place to start up. It's a tech startup. That's probably one of the reasons like investor took off from me. I think I talk about this like as a co-founder, as a CEO, is trusting yourself more. I think there's a lot of times when you go into situations where you're dealing with external stakeholders, and people can kind of read or smell the BS, Because you know what, when you're starting out, you need to show so much confidence in what you're doing that anyone who you're trying to recruit to work for you or to make invest in you or to get as a first customer needs to feel that you know what you're doing and what you're saying.
After you've raised seed, right? And you have been successful in raising 3 rounds, but what were the key metrics and areas of concentration that you're looking at after you had raised seed that helped you get to, was it pre-Series A or Series A, any of those 2 rounds?
You raise, the reason it's called pre-seed is because you're raising to plant the seed. So it's like you're raising to build your product or hire a first team. So most times pre-seed is just an idea. And you raise it based on this view of the world and how can you better. Then seed is you're trying to build that thing that you say you're going to build. And between seed and Series A is trying to demonstrate that there's enough people who want what you're saying or what you're building. In this case, seed, you're able to experiment, do a couple of things to address that question around following up with the solution, right? So you're trying to come up with something that you can demonstrate this thing works, right? Then Series A is I've shown this thing works, so now I need to move it from and I don't want to go into details because there's exact numbers actually that they say if you hit this number, it's the right time to know you can raise the next round. So I think in that context, it means all these rounds have very clear intention. It's very hard to raise a Series A if you haven't put your product market fit. That's why, as with every stage, there are less and less companies that raise because companies die along the way. Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sure we've all gotten so much from this event. I've learned so much. I think for me, the thing that stood out for me was, as a marketer, one thing that I always say is the best marketers are the ones who are able to tell the best stories. And I think first of all, I've seen that in you, even as an entrepreneur, telling a story in a way that relates to people and people want to buy into your vision. So thank you so much. Follow us on all social media platforms at Nairobi Garage, and you'll get to see this and more.